Yes, it has. Obviously, the figures are very alarming, but they're not unexpected. The figures that came out last week at 0.78 children per woman were the lowest that Korea has seen and are also the lowest in the world. And this marks a 7-year decline in Korea, which is obviously very alarming for the government.
Yes, so the stable fertility rate is around 2.1% for every female. So that's well below that level. What are the factors driving this fall?
There are a number of factors. First of all, there's economics. There's a cost of living crisis, which everybody is experiencing just now. The cost of housing is very high. Education is expensive. It costs a lot to bring up a child. And a lot of young people just don't feel that they can afford to do that. They don't feel that they can afford to get married, to have their own place. A lot of them live with their parents for a long time. And there just isn't that confidence in the economy. But the government has thrown a lot of money at this over the past 16 years. The government has thrown something in the region of 200 billion US dollars to try and incentivize to try and help the population grow and to encourage young people to have children. And they've been investing in things like baby vouchers for young couples, in paid paternity leave, in other campaigns to encourage men to do more at home. And yet that hasn't been working. So there are a lot of social factors as well. And young women especially are reluctant now to get married. They invest a lot of time in their education. It's a highly competitive education that young people face here. It's a very competitive job market. And young women feel that they've put so much time and effort into building a career that they don't want to then face traditional values where they have to stay at home and they have to do a lot more of the housework. They generally bear a lot more of the burden of raising children. And many young women are saying, we don't want that. And it's also similar with young men. They're feeling financial pressures. They feel that they have to have a house and a certain level of financial security before they can go ahead and have children. And so all of these factors are really coming together.
Yeah. Give us a sense of looking further out, what impact this is going to have on the economy.
Well, there are huge concerns about the economy. South Korea is one of the fastest aging societies in the world. And so then you obviously have, more people aging out of the workforce, a lot more pressure on the social security system. Official statistics point to the pension fund running dry by 2055. And tax revenue is obviously going down because there are fewer people in the workforce. So there isn't yet a solution as to how you deal with that level of aging population and young people just not able to pay for it.
Yeah. South Korea is not the only country struggling with this across Asia. Japan is too. China is too, of course, with that long-standing one-child policy, now really having caught up with them.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems to be a regional trend. Today, new statistics came out in Japan that showed that only 800,000 babies were born there last year, and that's the worst that it's been in over a century. You have Taiwan as well, which has one of the lowest birth rates in the world. It's 1.2 children per woman. And I think Japan's 1.3. And as you mentioned, China also is struggling they're struggling to keep their population up. Their population declined last year for the first time since the 1960s. So everybody is facing similar issues here. There's a lot of economics at play, but also there are security concerns. I mean, this is a region where there are rising tensions for South Korea in particular. You have North Korea, nuclear-armed North Korea, neighbouring. We saw unprecedented numbers of missiles missile tests last year. And certainly it's something that the Defence Ministry here are very concerned about the declining numbers in personnel. They're saying that within a couple of decades, you could have half the number of military personnel. And also, if you're spending more on the social security budget, then clearly there's less for the defence budget as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, because countries like Australia, the UK and the US solve their population problems through immigration. But this is not a trend that really happens throughout Asia.
That's true, and that's one thing that governments are very reluctant to look at as a solution to allow easier immigration. It's not popular with the public, and obviously at election time that's a difficult issue for governments to tackle. And a lot of experts are saying that South Korea, Taiwan, Japan are at the point where it's going to be very hard to reverse these declining birth rates, and really that we're looking now at some kind of mitigation and how we find more creative solutions to deal with the fact that the populations are not going to rise.
Yeah, and economies will have to adjust. Really good to get your analysis, Nicola. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.